Hello and welcome to Matrix IT Cybersecurity Fundamentals course. This module is on ransomware. My name is Frank Fazio and I will be your instructor. All right, ransomware. I think everybody's pretty much heard the term, but maybe doesn't know exactly how it works or how you get infected. So we're going to talk about that a little bit in this module. If you want to freak out your IT help desk or any of the IT people that work in your organization, say this word. Okay, strikes fear in all of IT. If this gets into your system at work or at home for that matter, but if it goes into your system at work and it starts to spread throughout the network, you got a lot of work on your hands if you're in the IT department. All right, so let's take a look at what it is and how to help protect your network and the computers that you run. Okay, so ransomware. Ransomware is a type of malicious software designed to block access to a computer system until a sum of money is paid. So basically, it's, we lock your computer, you pay us, and we'll open it up again for you. And I stole this picture off the internet, so it must be true because it was on the internet. But this is the best picture that I could find to describe what ransomware is. You go to work every day and you do all sorts of things from checking your email to surfing the web to Word, Excel, whatever systems you may use. Just imagine you go in one day and your computer's completely locked. It's basically a brick. All right. Then, you get a message on your screen that tells you how to get your information back. Um, Great, getting emails. The way that you're supposed to pay, how much you're supposed to pay, all of that's contained on the screen. And I'm going to show you one of the more popular ransomware attacks and what it looked like. So that's what the picture is here. So you're locked down, your laptop's locked or your computer's locked. You have to pay and you get the key from the hacker and you can unlock your computer. That's the way it's supposed to go. There have been cases where people have paid and never got a key, or they've paid and not gotten the right key to open up their computer. So it's a gamble, but this is basically the way it looks. All right. So ransomware, if we're looking at numbers, this is the latest estimate. The latest estimate, it's very hard to come up with a number. So this is the number that has been stated. The number of ransomware attacks a year, 700 million per year, which comes to about 22 attacks per second. So it's very important that we pay attention to what we're clicking on. I think if you've gone through, a lot of the modules in this course, you're going to find that, we have to pay attention to what we're clicking on, the websites we're going to, the QR codes or the barcodes we're scanning, things along those lines. All right, 22 attacks per second. That's a pretty big number. Okay, you don't think it's big, but per second, that's a big number. So we're getting attacked all the time, and we have to be diligent, and we have to be able to recognize when we're being manipulated, to give away personal information, to create an attack vector, like we looked at in the spear phishing and the phishing modules. And we do our best, but this is the top 10 ransomware attacks over the last little bit. We're going to talk about the Colonial pipeline and the JBS in a minute. But I wanted to point out one of the things here. Planned Parenthood was hit. Their data was locked. So there's something out there now, and it's we're looking at ransomware in this module, but it's called double extortion ransomware. That's the new thing out, or the thing that's being seen more frequently. And basically what it is, for instance, let's take Planned Parenthood. This didn't happen to them, but there have been cases in Europe that this did happen to. So they get hit with a ransomware attack. So the computers are locked down. But before the computers get locked down, the hackers will make a copy of the data. All right. Now, if you take a look, Planned Parenthood, it's a sensitive topic. The organization holds very sensitive data. So if you make a copy of it as a hacker, now you have that data, right? And then you freeze their computers or you lock their computers down. So you're going to ask Planned Parenthood to pay you, right? You're the hacker. I've locked your computer. And you can also throw in, if you don't pay us, if you don't pay me, the data that I have, I'm going to release it out onto the internet. So you're getting that, extortion where you have to pay, or otherwise we're going to release the data that we copied. It'll go one step further possibly, and this is what happened to companies in Europe, a couple companies. The hackers will say, we have your data, we have a copy of your data, you pay us, or we will contact all the people in this data and basically extort them, okay, and say, we're going to release your data. We're going to contact each one of them and say, if you don't pay us, ransom, we're going to release your data. So not only the company that has the data is locked down, but now the hackers have the contact lists and all the data and all the people attached to it. They can contact each one of them and start extorting them for money. All right, that's called double extortion ransomware. It's becoming more and more frequent, but you can see where it becomes really dangerous if you hold sensitive information and you do get hit with ransomware. Not only, you're locked down, but the data is out there now, and everybody in that data can get contacted and extorted also. All right, so we have to be very, very careful. It's two of the bigger ones that hit the news. We used to, being in IT, I've been in IT over 30 years. And, when it came to somebody getting hacked or somebody getting ransomware, we're the only ones that knew because we followed that stuff because we have to protect networks and laptops and computers, the whole bit. So we had to stay on top of that. Now, these attacks are becoming so large that they hit the news and it affects the normal person. So one of the ones, the JBS, they got hit with a ransomware attack. They basically got locked down. Their packing plants were shut down. They couldn't operate. And the hackers wanted, I think they wanted 20 million, I think, but they were talked down to 11 million. And they ended up paying $11 million to get their systems back online. Now, it's when you're talking about massive systems like that, you pay the ransom, you get the key, but it takes time to get your systems back up and running. Okay, it's not just you put the key in and everything works. It has to be decrypted, so that can take some time. The other one was Colonial Pipeline, and this one was a bigger deal because it basically shut down the eastern seaboard with getting gas. The gas could not be delivered, and there were reports of lineups at gas stations, people not being able to get gas, and they paid 4.4 million around there. The FBI was able to trace some of the Bitcoin and was able to get, I think, half of it back. Okay. Bitcoin at one point was anonymous. Now, the FBI and the NSA, well, not the NSA, but the FBI and the CIA and all those guys that handle this kind of stuff, they can start tracking this kind of stuff and seeing what wallets things drop into. So, I mean, it's very, very important that we, don't reuse passwords and we don't click on links and stuff. I believe one of them, I can't remember which one it was out of these two, but it was because someone reused a password and they got in. So you have to be very, very careful when it comes to this kind of stuff. If you get infected with ransomware and the network that you're on gets infected because they go through you, it is a mess for the IT department. Okay, there's been some organizations, I'm not going to name them, but one of them got hit, and it was a university, and they were down for months. Okay, so we have to be very, very careful. Now, when I had said, you get instructions when you do get infected, this is the WannaCry ransomware that came out years ago. but it's the most famous one. So basically, your computer was encrypted. Well, how this one worked was there was an exploit in Windows, I believe. I think it was called Eternal Blue or something like that. Anyways, there were holes in the operating system for Windows, and someone developed a WannaCry ransomware. They believe it was a nation state. And this went through computer networks like crazy. So here it is. Oops, your files have been encrypted. What happened to your computer? Your important files have been encrypted. Documents, photos. They're very descriptive here. Can I recover my files? Sure, we guarantee you can recover all your files safely and easily, but you have not so enough time. So you can decrypt some of your files for free. You can click this decrypt here, but if you want to do all of them, you have to pay. And if you notice down here, I know it's probably a little hard to see, but that's the Bitcoin address that you want to send the money to. Now over here, we've got the time left. So what they say here is they're going to give you 3 days to pay. All right. If you do not, then it doubles over after the 3 days, and by 7 days, if you do not pay after 7 days, they're not going to deal with you anymore, and they're just going to leave everything locked down. This here, they wanted $300 worth of Bitcoin, and then it went to $600, but they gave you a timers for both. Okay, now some of the details here. This came out in 2017. And it went crazy over the internet. One of the biggest hit was it's the hospital system in Britain. They got hit really hard on that. It went through 150 countries, and at the time 327 entities or organizations paid the $300. Okay, so there was money that was made. Couple 100,000. It wasn't much, but at that point, the damage done was about $4 billion. Okay, so this was a bad one, and it could have been a lot worse. Like I said, there were 327 payments, 150 countries that were hit. That number is not, no, this 130,000 is not that high, but there's a reason why it's not that high, okay? And it comes down to this guy, all right? This is Marcus. Marcus is the hero. He saved a number of people from getting hit with this. So he's a security researcher, and what he did was he cracked open the WannaCry ransomware, and he started looking in code. That's what he did. He tinkered with stuff like that. And so he opened up the code, and he found a kill switch in the code. And it was basically, as the ransomware would travel from network to network, the first thing it would do is, before it infected the computer, it went out to the internet. And it went to see if a specific website was up and running. All right. And if it was running, there was no infection. If it wasn't running, then it would infect the computer it was on. Okay. So basically what the ransomware was doing was checking the internet for a specific website. Now that website didn't exist. So the makers of this website figured, okay, if we want to stop this infection, we will just bring up this website and all the infections will stop. Okay, that was the check. So the ransomware, before it infected, went out to the internet, checked to see if a website was active. If it was, then it would stop it. It wouldn't do anything. So it was kind of a safety. Well, he discovered this. So what he did was he just brought the website up. He registered the domain and he brought it up, and it effectively stopped the infections. So every time the computer got infected or was going to get infected, the ransomware would check, and that website was there because of this guy, because of Marcus. So he ended up saving the internet by activating this kill switch that the hackers had put in there to control it. All right. So he becomes the hero. right? He's the hero. He's the one who figured out how to stop this thing. He figured out the hacker's little failsafe, and he triggered it. He triggered the failsafe to shut down the ransomware. Marcus, unfortunately, I met Marcus in Vegas at the DEF CON. There's a hacker conference every year in Vegas. Actually, I just went to one a few weeks ago, and I met him there. And unfortunately for Marcus, he tried in 2017. He tried to he went to DEF CON that year, and he tried to get to the airport to leave that Sunday after everything was done, and he was arrested by the FBI because he had done some things in the past that the FBI figured out, and they arrested him. And they were going to give him, I think it was like 10 years or something like that in prison. But he admitted to doing some nefarious things. But he was remorseful, and he helped basically save the internet. So they put him on probation for a while. He couldn't leave the country. He's from the England, the British area, and he couldn't go home for a number of years because he was on lockdown here, as in not in jail, but he was on probation, and he couldn't leave the country, the U.S. So that's Marcus. Like I said, I met him, good guy, and he brought down the ransomware, the WannaCry ransomware, because he figured out how to trigger the switch to turn it off. Kind of cool, story. So when we look at the steps of ransomware, what do we got? All right, so first thing that the hacker's going to do, I mean, we've talked about all these things in all the different modules. And this is why it's very, very important we pay attention to what we're doing on our computers. So, a phish can come in with a bad link. You click on it, and you could possibly, that attachment that's there, or that link is sending you to a bad website, right? You go to a bad website, and it could possibly download a ransomware to your computer, or even scanning a QR code and going somewhere on the internet, or even outdated software. That WannaCry was because of a hole, right, in the operating system, and it's been plugged now, so that ransomware can't go and infect as easy as it could before. So all these things here is a way to get to you, all right? Going to a bad website, clicking on links, scanning QR codes. And there's a module I did one on barcodes and QR codes, and not keeping our software updated. And what'll happen is, you trigger an infection, right? And as soon as you trigger an infection, all your data gets locked down. And once all your data is locked down, you have to pay a ransom to get it back. Now, paying the ransom, it is a business process. It's not something you're going to be deciding at work. That's going to be up to the administration. At home, right? You gotta kind of wonder, what do you do? Your photos, your all of your documents, favorites of your website. So everything's locked. What do you do? Do you pay, or do you have a good backup, right? But that's how it works. So they're going to hit you with something, and then they're going to infect you. Then you're going to lock your computer down and possibly go to others in your household over the network, and you got to pay the ransom. All right. So how do we protect ourselves? Okay. So this is going to be the strange. The word strange is going to come up a lot in all these. So we've looked in phishing and spear phishing. We can't click on strange links, right? The unsolicited emails, the texts we get, maybe, links in your social media. We can't click on strange links. We can't open strange attachments, okay? We have to be very, very careful. If you get an email from somebody you think you know, Be very, very careful with your attachments. Scan your attachment before you open it, or just disregard and contact that person another way and, verify. So we also don't want to click, we don't want to plug our cell phones into strange cables. And I have a module. I don't think you've seen it yet, but there's another module on juice jacking. And it is about you plugging your computer or your phone into strange cables which are connected to other computers, right? So we're not going to plug our phone into strange cables just hanging out of the wall. We're not going to click attachments, and we're not going to click on links, okay? And one of the ones that we have to be very, very careful for is strange USBs. All right. If you find a USB as you're walking along and you pick it up, do not plug it in. Okay. It doesn't matter what's written on it. It's called a USB drop. Your IT department may be testing you. There have been cases where people have dropped USB cables in parking lots with very nice, labels on them that says Bitcoin or something like that, and people have plugged them in and become infected. All right, so we're not going to insert USBs into the computer. All right, use your own. You don't need any extra ones. We have to be very, very careful when we're connecting to Wi-Fi. Make sure it's the proper Wi-Fi. If you are unsure, you don't connect. Use your data. The Wi-Fi is becoming very interesting as for man-in-the-middle attacks, where the hacker will get you to attach to his network instead of the real Wi-Fi. He'll create a Wi-Fi signal and have you connect. So we're not going to connect to any strange Wi-Fi. And of course, we're going to back up our stuff. Now, what do I mean by that? So at work, there are a number of things that your IT department or your help desk or the third party IT that you have, they do a lot of stuff in the background and they back up your stuff, your documents and stuff like that. They'll do nightly backups. They'll, do weekly backups. They'll do monthly backups. Then they'll do yearly backups, and then they'll, keep certain versions just in case, you do get a ransomware attack and they need to pull some of the data out of the backups. But if you're at home, just make sure that, you're backing up what is on your laptop, your computer, your phone. If you want to, pay for some sort of cloud service. I know the iPhones, it always says, oh, your cloud's full, you can't take any more pictures or that kind of stuff. But if you invest in the cloud, or your USB sticks, copy your stuff. Make sure you've got copies of it. Because just think, right? You've got your computer at home. What if your computer at home turned into a brick? You don't have any of your stuff. So make sure you back up the stuff at home. You got pictures on your phone, put them on your computer. You have photos on your computer, back them up to a USB drive or, like I said, the cloud. So that's what ransomware is. I mean, it's not a very hard concept to get. Your computer gets locked, right? And you have to pay money to get it unlocked. All right. That's all I have. That's the module. Again, be careful. So stay safe and stay frosty. We'll see you in the next module.